The old man looked at us without fear that he stood in what he called an office. But it wasn't really an office. It was more like a small armory built inside a room. The walls were covered with guns. Shelves were filled with boxes of ammunition. Cans of food were stacked neatly in the corners. Medical supplies were stored in sealed containers. This place wasn't just a workspace, the IT was a survival bunker. From my drone's camera, I scanned everything carefully. I could see how organized he was trying to be. Papers were spread across his desk. He was rushing to sort them, even while we stood there watching that I was operating the drone. With me were two security Taurian guards, our expedition chief scientist Decadus, and the human named Reginald. The old man finally spoke. "So you are aliens?" His voice was calm, not shocked, not afraid. Then he added, "For the record, this conversation is being recorded." He tapped a small device on his desk. "My name is Thomas James Tafford." Decadus replied, "Yes, we are not from this world." The man didn't react strongly. Instead, he asked, "How long have you been here?" "We have been in this star system for 2 months," I answered through the drone. "We have been observing your planet for 1 month. We have been on the surface for 10 days. He nodded slowly and wrote something down. "We've been dealing with this apocalypse for a year," he said. "So you're saying you had nothing to do with the outbreak?" "We have traced the virus origin," Decadus explained. "It leads back to a laboratory in the Rocky Mountains." The man paused. "So it's our fault?" "We do not yet know the full cause," I said. "But we now have a cure, and we are already producing it." That made him stop writing. "You work fast," he said. "Our civilization has dealt with deadly space plagues for thousands of years," Decadus replied. "Our medical technology can scan biological threats and manufacture cures quickly." The man leaned back. Then he started analyzing us. "You have ships, fleets, probably a large empire, many species, advanced weapons. Your armor protects you from infection, and you're clearly not affected by the virus." We were surprised. He had guessed almost everything correctly. "How do you know all that?" I asked. He shrugged. "I was a politician for 30 years before this mess started. In leadership, you learn to read patterns. 2 plus 2 equals 4. That's all." Then he folded his notebook. My turn to ask questions. That statement changed the tone of the room. That he didn't panic, that he didn't beg. He took control of the conversation. "Do you have any idea how long it will take to fix this?" I asked. He looked at us calmly. "You already have a cure? I saw you use it." Then he continued, "If it can be turned into an aerosol, we can spread it fast. We still have an old crop duster aircraft. It could spray the cure across the land." We paused. "A crop duster?" Decadus asked. He explained it simply. "A small plane used to spray crops from the air." That I stared at him. "How long have you been thinking about this solution?" He answered without hesitation. "Since you walked in." We were silent. That he continued. "That's how humans work. We see a problem. We look at what we have. Then we figure something out. No hesitation, no complex calculations. Just rapid practical thinking." Even other species in the room looked shocked. Their diplomats were whispering behind us. They had expected fear. Instead, they found logic. Then the old man's expression changed. His voice became serious. "Before we go any further, understand something. We are not united. Not even close." He leaned forward slightly. "We survived because we had to. We made hard choices. We lost people. We watched loved ones die and come back try to kill us." The room became quiet. That he continued. "When someone you love turns into one of those things, and you have to leave them behind, it changes you. Permanently." His eyes were steady. "You should know, not everyone will see you as saviors. Some will blame you. Some will think this is punishment. Others will think it's a blessing." He looked directly at us. "Be prepared." For the first time, I felt uncertainty, not from danger, from understanding. This planet had survived something far worse than we imagined, and the humans were still standing. After the warning, the room stayed quiet for a moment, and no one spoke. Then the old man leaned back in his chair. "So," he said calmly, "what do you want from us?" His question was direct, in no emotion. No fear, just business. That I replied carefully. "We didn't want to take from you. We want to learn from you." That surprised him. "We want to understand how you think, how you build things, how you solve problems. Not just your technology, but your method. He raised an eyebrow. Our method? Yes, Decadus added. Your structures, your logistics systems, your transportation networks, even your steam engines. The man nodded slowly. Steam power is old, he said, but the way you use it is not. I replied. We explained that in our civilization, steam technology existed, but not in the massive, practical way humans deployed it. Their bridges, trucks, supply chains, everything was designed for scale and survival. IT was not just invention, IT was adaptation. The man scratched his beard. All right, and what do we get in return? That was a fair question. We removed the zombies, I said. His eyes hardened slightly. And the virus? Yes. The cure is already complete. We are producing it. He leaned forward. If you can remove the undead and stop the infection, we will handle the rest ourselves. His voice was steady, not hopeful. Determined, he continued. If it weren't for the zombies, we would rebuild. It would take time, maybe generations, but we would manage. That statement impressed us. Even after collapse, they believed they could recover. Then he added something important. Right now, the biggest problems are the undead, contaminated water, damaged infrastructure, and lack of communication. He began listing issues calmly, like a project report. Our water system is damaged. Our radio tower is down. Some settlements can't talk to each other. Food is stable for now, but assistance would help morale. He spoke like a planner, not a victim. That realization hit us deeply, that he wasn't asking for rescue, that he was requesting support. That difference mattered. That I responded, we will deploy resources. He nodded good, but I strongly advise caution with military presence. I can't speak for the whole world. Some people will welcome you, others will not. He paused. That's just reality. His honesty was uncomfortable, but useful. That we asked if we could land infantry units. He shrugged. I don't control the planet. Do what you think is right. Then he added something else. If you want cooperation, help us remove the zombies first. That was his condition. Simple, clear. That we agreed. Back on our ship, we began coordination. Supply teams started scanning human crops. Our farming specialists examined soil, water, and food systems. That to our surprise, Earth's agriculture was extremely advanced, in a different way. Human crops were diverse, extremely diverse. Corn, wheat, sugarcane, vegetables we had never cataloged before. Their selective breeding methods were impressive. Even their livestock surprised us. One animal, the bovine species, was highly efficient for meat production. Its genetic structure made it ideal for scaling food supply. We immediately began planning how to replicate and distribute samples to other systems. Earth could feed much more than just itself. Then something unexpected happened. One of our teams discovered a human publication called a cookbook. That IT was scanned and transmitted to Supply Command. The response was unusual. After reviewing it, multiple officers requested additional analysis, particularly after reading about a dish called lasagna. That we regret. That discovery, protocols were updated. Human literature requires supervision. Too much cheese was involved. Back to operations. Our fleet arrived in full strength. Science units began analyzing captured samples. The cure was finalized for distribution. Meanwhile, Reginald was appointed liaison between our forces and the local leadership. He helped coordinate communication and reduce misunderstandings. Gradually, order began returning. The first large-scale deployment against undead zones was preparing to begin, but something else was about to change. Something small, something simple, and it started with a drink. The cure was ready. Mass production facilities were fully active in orbit. Distribution systems were prepared. Atmospheric deployment units were calibrated. This was the turning point. Our strategy was clear. First, eliminate active zombie populations in open regions using drone support. Second, deploy the cure in aerosol form to infected zones. Third, restore infrastructure step by step. The humans had already suggested something similar. The crop duster aircraft could spread the cure across wide areas. IT was simple, practical, effective. That we decided to combine both approaches. Advanced orbital dispersal. Systems would cover large regions. Local aircraft would handle detailed zones and hard-to-reach areas. The humans were involved in coordination, They volunteered pilots, they volunteered technicians, they volunteered medical staff. Even during collapse, cooperation appeared when survival was at stake. Meanwhile, our ground teams continued clearing infected zones. Zombies were aggressive but predictable. Their behavior patterns were simple. No strategy. No coordination. Just instinct driven by infection. Our armored units handled them efficiently. But we noticed something important. In areas where humans had organized defense groups, survival rates were higher. Not because of superior weapons, but because of teamwork. Humans adapted quickly. Even without central leadership, small communities formed structured defense systems. This pattern reinforced what we had observed earlier. Human problem solving was fast, not theoretical. Practical. Point one settlement leader summarized it best. We see a problem. We use what we have. That mindset was everywhere. Back on the ship, Reginald continued working as liaison, that he moved between command teams and ground authorities, that he explained our procedures in simple terms, that he reduced fear. That was crucial, because as Thomas warned us earlier, not everyone would trust aliens. Some people blamed us for the outbreak. Others believed we were sent as punishment, that a few feared invasion, that we had prepared for resistance. But surprisingly, organized resistance was minimal. Most humans were focused on survival. They wanted water, food, safety, communication, stability, that aligned with our objectives. As cooperation grew. Then came a major milestone. The first large-scale cure deployment began. Aerosol dispersal units activated over infected zones. Atmospheric currents carried the treatment across cities and rural regions. In control tests. Infection progression stopped within hours for newly exposed individuals. For active cases, symptoms reduced significantly. The virus mutation began, destabilizing. Our science teams monitored changes in real time. The pathogen was complex, but it was not invincible. Human biology had already adapted to the mild airborne strain. That fact made full eradication possible. Meanwhile, water purification systems were restored in multiple cities. Underground aquifers were cleaned and reinforced. Contaminated supplies were neutralized. Communication towers were repaired. For the first time in months, settlements could speak to each other again. That alone reduced panic dramatically. And then something unexpected happened. Human morale began improving. Not because everything was fixed, but because progress was visible. Hope returned, and hope changes behavior. Crime rates in secured areas started dropping as resources stabilized. Some bandit groups surrendered when they realized organized resistance was pointless against combined human and fleet operations, that we offered rehabilitation options instead of immediate destruction. This approach aligned with long-term uplift goals. The more we worked with humans, the more we understood something important. They were not chaotic. They were under extreme stress. When resources are scarce, behavior becomes defensive, but when stability returns, cooperation rises quickly. That trait was valuable, extremely valuable. Back on the bridge, I reviewed reports. The fleet was operational. The cure distribution network was expanding. Infrastructure repair was ongoing. Human settlements were gradually reconnecting. And for the first time since arrival, the planet did not feel like a disaster zone. That IT felt like a recovery zone. But there was still one major step remaining. The full eradication of the active virus strain. And once that was complete, humanity would no longer be forced into survival mode. What would they become next? That question remained unanswered, and it was about to lead to something even more surprising. The fleet was now in orbit. Ships filled the sky above Earth. Science teams were working nonstop. Supply units were coordinating with human settlements. The cure was being produced in massive quantities. Everything was moving fast, but the humans were still fighting. Zombies remained active across many regions. Our drones began clearing large, open areas. Armored variants were deployed for high-risk zones. The goal was simple: reduce infection density and secure supply routes. Meanwhile, ground teams started testing farming methods with human crops. After proper decontamination, we applied our agricultural systems. That IT worked better than expected. Earth soil was highly productive. Their plants adapted easily. to controlled conditions. Human food production methods were primitive compared to galactic standards, yet extremely effective. Efficiency through simplicity. That pattern appeared again and again. Then our researchers made a major discovery about the virus that it was more complex than expected. There were two main active strains. Point one strain was waterborne and bloodborne. It spread through direct contact, contaminated fluids, and infected tissue. Another variant could become airborne under specific environmental conditions. Both strains could operate independently. But here was the most surprising fact. Every human on the planet already carried a mild airborne version. It acted like a simple flu. The human immune system adapted to it naturally that it did not harm them during normal life. However, when a human died, the immune response stopped and the virus activated fully. That was when resurrection occurred. The waterborne strain caused severe illness, especially in vulnerable populations. The bloodborne variant was always fatal, and zombie bites were extremely dangerous because the infected tissue carried additional bacterial contamination. The combination created a vicious cycle. Infection, death, reanimation, spread, but now that we understood it, we could break the chain. The cure targeted the active mutation strain. Mass production began immediately. While this was happening, something unexpected occurred in human culture. Our teams were analyzing environmental data when they encountered human literature, including books, digital archives, and historical records. Point one particular historical event caught attention. The Black Death, a massive pandemic in human history caused by a bacterium. It wiped out a large portion of their population. Yet humanity survived. They had experienced devastation before and recovered. This pattern was important. It explained resilience. It explained mindset. Humans were not new to disaster. They were experienced survivors. Back on the ground, water purification systems were being repaired. Underground aquifers were stabilized. Radio towers were being rebuilt to restore communication between settlements. Progress was slow, but steady. Then came another surprising development. During resource scans, supply units found a large number of edible species. Human agriculture diversity was extraordinary, more variety than most planetary systems we had studied. Their genetic breeding methods, though simple, were highly effective, and they had something else. Coffee. At first, it seemed harmless. Then we analyzed it. Caffeine was present. In our species, caffeine analogs were extremely dangerous. They could cause severe heart stress. But this human version was different. Modified through plant variation and preparation methods. It was safe for them. We observed carefully. Then Reginald offered us a sample. Out of politeness, I accepted. The drink was hot, dark, bitter. I took a sip. The effect was immediate. My focus sharpened. My awareness increased. Not panic, not fear, just clarity. I scanned myself rapidly. Harmful reaction. The compound structure was different from our toxic variant. It was stable, adapted to human biology. Reginald smiled. That's coffee, he said. Helps us stay awake. Stay awake? They consumed this regularly? We had just discovered a substance that enhanced alertness without immediate harm. For long operational cycles, this could be significant. Then something else occurred to me. If humans could tolerate this stimulant, their resilience might be even greater than we thought. Coffee was not just a drink. It was a survival tool in their culture. And now we understood why. Because their world demanded endurance. I finished the cup. I felt something unexpected. Not addiction, not dependence, but appreciation. Humans adapted their environment to their needs. Even their daily drinks reflected survival. Back on the bridge, I began compiling my report. This planet was not a liability. It was an asset. Biological resilience, agricultural diversity, rapid problem-solving mindset, historical survival experience. Even their simplest habits contained strategic value, and the cure was almost ready for planetary distribution. The next phase was about to begin. Large-scale deployment, systematic elimination of the undead threat. Humanity's recovery was starting. But what we learned next would change our entire understanding of the species. The final phase began quietly. The cure had already been distributed across most infected regions. Now our teams focused on the remaining hot zones, isolated cities, underground shelters, and rural pockets where infection still lingered. Drones scanned every settlement. Medical units confirmed exposure levels. When humans received the vaccine, the airborne strain stabilized immediately. For new infections, recovery was fast. For active mutation cases, the cure disrupted the aggressive form of the virus completely. The undead population began collapsing. Without new infections, zombies could not sustain themselves. Our ground units systematically cleared the remaining clusters, not with destruction alone, but with containment and treatment whenever possible. Human volunteers worked beside us. They helped identify infected areas. They guided drones through narrow streets. They coordinated supply routes. For the first time in a year, humans were not just surviving alone. They were collaborating, and it made a difference. Water systems became stable. Food production increased rapidly. Our agricultural teams shared improved techniques while also learning from human farming. Diversity.Earth crops were astonishingly adaptable. Their selective breeding methods, though simple, had created resilient strains of plants and livestock. This planet was not just surviving, it was resource-rich, extremely resource-rich. Meanwhile, our scientists completed full analysis of the virus origin data recovered from the laboratory in the Rockies. The evidence confirmed what we suspected. The original strain had been used for research purposes, escape containment, mutated naturally for years, then returned to a lab environment where attempts at cure development triggered an extreme mutation event. That final mutation created the current aggressive strain. But now that we had the full genetic sequence, permanent suppression was possible. Not just treatment, prevention. The airborne mild strain would remain, since humans were already biologically adapted to it. But the deadly mutation would be eliminated from circulation. That meant no more resurrection cycle and more reanimation after death. The apocalypse was ending. On the bridge, I watched reports update in real time. Infection levels dropping. Undead sightings decreasing. Communications restored between regions. Infrastructure rebuilding. Human leadership structures reforming. Reginald approached the command deck again. He looked tired, but calmer than before. Feels quieter now, he said. Yes, I replied. He nodded slowly. You know, we didn't expect aliens to show up and help. That was not your expectation? I asked. No. We expected to fix it ourselves eventually. Maybe in generations. He paused. But this helps. There was no celebration yet. Too much damage had occurred, too many losses, but recovery was visible, and that mattered. Then came a message from the Planetary Council, a formal request for long-term cooperation. Not surrender, not control, cooperation. They wanted shared research, trade agreements, agricultural exchange, medical collaboration, and limited military coordination for remaining security threats. The Grand Admiral reviewed the request. After analysis, he approved continued joint operations under diplomatic oversight. Our presence would shift from emergency response to partnership. That was the correct path, not domination, not extraction to uplift. As days passed, settlement stabilized further. Bandit activity declined sharply as resources became available. Public morale improved. Memorial services were held for the fallen. Humans began burying their dead with dignity again, just as the old man had hoped. That alone changed the atmosphere of entire communities. Then something unexpected happened. At Fleet Command, reports arrived about human innovation in unexpected areas, rapid improvisation techniques, engineering solutions built from available materials, emergency logistics improvements, even simple agricultural modifications that increased yield dramatically. Human thinking patterns were indeed unique, fast, practical, adaptive. Point one scientists summarized it best. They do not wait for perfect tools. They use what exists. That mindset complemented our advanced systems perfectly. Advanced technology plus human adaptability. Together, they created powerful synergy. Back in orbit, I sat in my captain's seat. The crisis phase was ending. Not perfectly, not completely, but successfully. Earth was no longer a collapsing world. That IT was stabilizing. And for the first time since arrival, I looked at this planet not as a rescue operation, but as a future ally. I finished my report to the Council. Then I glanced at the empty coffee cup on my desk. Simple human drink. A stimulant. A cultural habit. Small, yet significant. Humans had survived extinction-level disaster using logic, resilience, cooperation, and relentless problem-solving. They were not fragile. They were not primitive. They were dangerous in their own way, not because of weapons, but because of mindset. And now, we had chosen to stand beside them. The galaxy would soon learn what that meant.